Okay, it's 6:01. We'll call the regular council meeting for the Village of Lions Bay to order. It's May 2nd and it's 6:01. And with that, we'll call the meeting to order. We have as guests Randy Deal, Deanna Campbell, and we have Kelsey at Raincoast as well. And then we have Councillor Broughton, Councillor Reuter, and Councillor Abbott, and myself, Mayor Perry. So with that, we'll call the meeting to order. Item number 2 is the closure of the council meeting. We'll move into the closed session subject to proposed topics for discussion in the absence of the public. A is legal matters, and that would be section 90.1 and also 90.1K, 90.1L, and 90.1N. So motion to move into closed.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Yes.
Carried. Okay. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Welcome back. I'll just start the meeting by saying we're privileged to be meeting and doing work on behalf of the residents of Lions Bay on the traditional unceded territory of the Squamish and Musqueam nations. And with that, I'll report out from our closed meeting. Staff is pleased to report that we have hired 2 Lions Bay residents to serve as bylaw officers. Their training will start later this week. So very pleased to see that we're hiring more Lions Bay residents.
Sure.
Yeah. And with that,
Getting the correction.
sorry.
So one Lions Bay resident and one's coming back from a prior year.
Oh,
I don't know that.
Apologies. 1 Lions Bay resident and 1 is a returning member. Corrected on that. Okay. With that, we'll move to the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Second. Discussion.
You want to go, Michael? Should I go first?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
As with the previous meeting, can we not do the minutes? As I haven't had time to look at them. We got them yesterday. It's okay with everyone.
Other councillors? Councillor Broughton?
Regular council.
Okay, so motion to defer.
To defer the minutes to the following meeting.
Okay, second. Second, all in favor?
Yep.
Opposed, carried.
Okay.
Okay, with that,
No,
any other items?
I'd like to add one item. And that would be a discussion on the budget and the coming up meeting plan for Thursday.
Okay. Any objections to that? So put that under new business.
Business budget and committee of the whole.
Yeah, come in the whole meeting for Tuesday, for Thursday.
Pseudo TW Thursday.
Councillor Broughton? Yeah. No. Councillor Reuter?
Yep, we're approving the budget discussion. Or
That's
yes,
on the agenda. Yeah.
okay, on a new business, okay,
Councillor Reuter?
that's it, thank you.
Okay, I've just got a few minor things, TransLink update, Metro update, and the fire chief letter that came in late. I attended meetings with TransLink on Thursday and Metro meeting on Friday. I will report that out if it's fine with council. Under staff, I believe, or mayor. Council?
Sure.
Under reports, I guess, number 10.
Yep.
Okay.
TransLink and Metro.
TransLink, Metro, and fire chief.
Both fire chief. Okay.
Okay, any other items? Okay, all in favor of adopting the agenda?
Yes.
Exposed, carried. Okay, we'll move right to public participation and we'll go to the gallery. Mr. Shore.
Thanks very much. Can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes, sir, from Ocean View Road. There's been a lot of, shall we say, people suggesting that the sky is falling and that we've got no progress and that the village is doomed. There certainly has been a lot of sparks going off in this room. But I think it's time that we just take a balanced view. and count our blessings for some of the positive things that have happened since this council came in. I'm going to focus on volunteerism for starts. It's really good to see more people putting their hand up and getting involved. Residents of the village, subject matter experts, getting behind things like the Beach Park Committee. I understand that we're going to get the Infrastructure Committee and maybe a couple of different variations of that based on different aesthetics that we have in the village. The Finance Committee, which I've been a part of, has helped with some banking that has turned up some free tens of thousands of dollars of money that is just a result of people getting behind this group. It's really nice to see that the two new bylaw officers that I just heard about are village people. So it's not volunteerism, but it is getting our community back involved in being part of the solution. So I just want to thank this group, this committee, this council for where we're at today. We have another council member that's going to be joining this group as a result of the election. We have two very good candidates. And my request to the village is that at the end of this election, we embrace whoever wins. We empower this council to move forward in a positive way, that we focus on the positive things that are going on and getting back to the Lions Bay way.
Thank you.
Anyone speaking?
Next from the gallery.
Good evening, Mayor Barry and Council. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak briefly. I won't take up too much of your time. I'm going to follow David a little bit on gratitude for what you guys have managed to accomplish thus far on council. I think that giving everybody a pat on the back and helping you forward as opposed to moving backwards is definitely the way. But what I'd like to talk about today is the fact that we had a beautiful sunny weekend this weekend, but unfortunately, along with that beautiful sunny weekend came a fatality on the Sea to Sky Highway. And from that fatality, we had a closure on the highway, which really highlighted in our little village the problem that we've got with parking. And as I've been going door to door over the last 3 weeks, I've heard a lot of issues with regards to parking and issues that are different in Calvin Grove from Sunset Mountain to Brunswick Beach. So this weekend definitely highlighted that. And I know we've had a community member come forward and suggest that we put a parking committee together. So I guess another committee, David.
Great.
But I think it's a really, really important thing that we do. We need to get a committee together for parking to try to solve some of these issues. I'd like to add to that by saying that I think we should put a member on this committee from each area that's affected in Lions Bay. So we need a Brunswick Beach member, we need a Calvin member, and we need a Mountain and Sunset member. And hopefully we will be able to come up with some sort of seasonal parking plan that we can use in the future to be able to mitigate some of these issues that we've got with parking. So thank you so much for giving me the time to speak and hope to see what happens in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
This wasn't part of my presentation, but I talked to a member of the staff today, and he said that after Saturday, the beach is an absolute disaster. So bring on the volunteers, I say, to clean it up. So my issue is following up on my letter to council, asking if there have recently been any inspections carried out in the absence of a qualified building inspector, and if so, by whom. I'm concerned that in the absence of the building inspector, there may be a tendency to take shortcuts to mollify those people currently frustrated and stuck on their projects. They're losing money and trades. If shortcuts are taken down the road, this could cause the village and the homeowner problems. The village in the event of a lawsuit and the owner trying to sell his home if everything has not been signed off according to strict codes by properly qualified people. My son-in-law happens to be a professional engineer, and he told me that at certain stages a building inspector is the only one who has the authority to give the go-ahead. I don't want to sound alarmist, but in 2019, a rock fell out of a wall on a mini golf course on Vancouver Island and killed a 3-year-old girl. As a result of that lawsuit, that golf course has now gone out of business. I know there has been much criticism of those of us, the outraged, that's what we've been called, who want to make sure rules are being strictly followed. But this matter should be of concern to every single resident in this community, including those sitting around this table. Secondly, last year, the village received $80,000 in building permit revenue. So my second question is, how does the CFO intend to make up for this kind of shortfall? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to some of our Zoom guests and Jamie Cunliffe, you got your hand up. If you can unmute, Jamie.
Yes, hi, thank you for your time. I do have a question. It was in regards to the budget and it not being on the agenda, but that has now been addressed, so appreciate that. The village update on Friday had indicated that there was input that was being asked for from village residents. And being that it was not on this evening's agenda, I'm wondering when the resident input is going to be taken into advisement. And as a community, should we expect some special council meetings in the coming days to consider and pass the budget on time? Because the next village council meeting is not slated until May 16th, and it was indicated that it does need to be passed by May 15th. That's question one. And in order for residents to have an understanding of the proposed budget, the notes that accompanied the draft budget provided to the finance committee need to be released to the residents. And when will this happen? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll address that in the later discussions under budget and committee. Sure, Mr. Miller can address that. Okay, let's see, we'll go to Emily. Emily, please unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, hi, my name is Emily Montgomery, and although I don't attend all the council meetings, I have been watching the posted videos of the meetings and reading the agendas. And tonight I would like to just comment briefly on the April 27th Finance and Committee meeting. As a resident, I'm very pleased to see the Finance Committee is on top of the overall operating costs and what they plan to make council aware of in regards to the upcoming budget. There seems to be a good grasp of the funds we have available, which funds are allocated to which projects, along with the availability of government grants. I also see some innovative and efficient ideas, along with being greatly pleased with the additional $100,000 annually the village will now be making in interest going forwards. I was also happy to see that the mayor is keeping to his platform promise of transparency by asking the staff to provide villagers the ability to see online not only the draft of the 23 budget plans, but also the budget from 22 and the actuals from 21 and 22. More importantly, Mayor Barry, you asked if residents will be able to give feedback. And so a link will also be provided for residents to comment and ask questions about the budget. And you indicated that resident feedback is to be addressed by staff immediately. This is all great news. And I thank you all that this budget process is going to include residents' input throughout its planning and implementation. And thank you for your service.
Okay, thanks for that, Emily. We normally limit it to 5. Does anyone have any reservations about adding a couple?
Yeah, absolutely. Share the wall.
Okay, Leslie Nolan, we'll go to you. If you unmute, please.
Oh, thank you, Mayor, Council. I have a question with regards to, I'm going to use the words censorship of community engagement and participation. You know, and I know Mayor Barry and Councillor Broughton, you both ran on transparency, and I've just heard a lot about sort of the enactment of transparency, but I kind of want to understand, you know, if there's guidelines around what public participation is supposed to sort of contain so that it's not to be censored. Not only were my comments from last council meeting, April 18th, not included in the council package, but nor were letters back and forth between myself and Councillor Broughton, specifically April 11th, April 12th from Councillor Broughton, and then our response on the 17th were not included. And I guess my question would be, you know, are we gonna specify some criteria with regards to censorship in the community so that all public participation is included? And I understand you don't want people ranting and raving and yelling and screaming and such, but when questions are asked about, you know, the duties that you have all upheld an oath to, I want to understand what's going to be deleted, because mine's all been deleted. And I see Ron Miller, you know, you're sitting right there. Could you answer that question?
Okay, just before Mr. Miller answers that, we also have Deanna Campbell joining us this evening, and she's from the ministry, and she may give us a little bit of background if you'll now mute, Leslie.
Thank you, Mayor. Did you want me to respond to that?
No, sorry, Deanna, I'll let you respond, and then maybe Mr. Miller, because I think this is important. We certainly don't want to censor the community, and we want to encourage open and transparent communication. So Deanna, welcome aboard, and thank you very much for coming to the community of Lions Bay to give us some guidance.
Thank you. So just in terms of, if we're talking about public participation, of course, as the community knows, there's this public participation sections on the agenda where the public's able to ask questions and address council. And the guidelines around that are identified in the council procedure bylaw, and the public can find the council procedure bylaw on the website. In terms of correspondence, council does have a correspondence policy. It is a bit outdated. I believe it was 2015, 2017 that it was brought in. Certainly if council wishes, they can look at updating that policy, but currently that policy provides a number of exceptions for types of correspondence that would not be placed on the public agenda. All correspondence addressed to mayor and council would be always circulated to mayor and council, and the mayor may respond to all correspondence if he wishes. But in terms of exceptions, there are some exceptions for correspondence that wouldn't get included, and those are at the discretion of mayor and council or the CAO. And so one of the sections is if there's, if it's repetitious correspondence that's coming in, if it's correspondence that might be deemed inappropriate, correspondence that might be deemed defamatory or slanderous or vexatious. And of course, that's deemed, that's at the discretion of the CAO and mayor and council as to whether or not certain types of correspondence constitutes that and whether or not it would be included on the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Deanna. Mr. Miller, you had a comment, and then I'm going to move forward on the agenda.
I can specifically address Leslie Nolan's email. Within 2 sentences, I read it. It was extremely critical of council, extremely vexatious. And this close to a by-election, it had no place to be in this venue. So I took it out.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on, and any other in the gallery, we'll have another Q&A at the end. So thank you very much. We've gone past our 5 and we've entertained 7. So we'll move on so we can get through our agenda. Item number.
We said we'd listen to the rest.
We said we'd listen to the people who wanted to step up.
Apologies if we want to do that. Normally we limit it to 5. We've gone 7, but that's fine. Who else do we have up there? The council would like to listen. We'll take The hands up, three further. Norma Rogers, we'll go to you.
Thank you. Last meeting, I asked council to adopt some changes to provide transparency. Publish agendas on the Friday before council meetings, include with the agenda written management reports, require committees to report to council on an ongoing basis, disclose resident selection criteria for committees, minimize closed council meetings or portions of meetings, require residents who speak at council to provide full names, explain why CAO Jejong was terminated, and justify the expense. Publish all resident opinion letters to allow free speech. These changes have been suggested by residents, plus councillors Abbott and Reuter. I received a letter from Councillor Broughton this morning. He wrote, I am certain all members of council support the timely and complete providing of information to everyone. Closed meetings are kept to a minimum with as much reporting out as possible based on legal constraints. So, Councillor Broughton, are you telling me that nothing will change to create trust on the part of skeptical residents?
Okay, Norma, is that your question? You can mute Norma, please. Councillor Broughton, you had written Norma Rogers back. Did you want to answer that, or would you like to defer that?
I'll defer that. Just further letter in this time, and I'll respond to that as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move to Carmen. Carmen, if you can unmute.
Hello, yeah, a couple questions. The first question is I want to follow up on our utilities bills. Those are generally out a long time ago. We're 5 months in, and I'm curious as to what the plan is or when we expect those so that we're not hit with the tax bill and our utility bill at the same time.
Okay, we're addressing that tonight, Carmen. Do you have another question?
The other question, the other question I was just following up was in regards to the 7% tax increase that was mentioned at the last finance committee meeting on April 27th. And what is the tax increase that we are to expect?
Okay, we'll be addressing your first question later in the meeting. Your second question will be going, that's concerning the budget. We're also addressing that in item number 14 under new business. And the 7% increase that is yet to be landed on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry.
Fred.
That's shaving.
Fred.
Oh, Fred. Okay, Fred, if you unmute.
Sure, thanks. I've got a question. It has to do with the garbage collection contract that you're going to vote on tonight. I've been following it loosely somewhat, but I haven't really seen the meat of the proposed new bylaw, if it's a new bylaw you're proposing. The reason I'm asking is in the last council, we had an issue a couple of years back in that the CIO had negotiated a contract change without consulting council. And in that, it cut the amount of green waste down to 6 containers, where we already had a traditional agreement that if people would stop burning slash and everything, they'd be given an unlimited usage of containers. Can you assure me that maybe that hasn't been deleted from it and we can still continue with the garbage collection as we had? Thanks.
Thank you. All right, Councillor Broughton.
Could I respond to that?
Sure.
Yeah, but Fred, I was very concerned about that change to the contract that was made a couple of years ago. But the bylaw does not include the contract. It's just the billing. The contract will be up for negotiation this summer. I believe it begins in September in the new year.
The contract's
not sure.
The contract's 2 years stale. Keep rolling it over, but that's another matter.
Yeah.
But we didn't change, we did not change it. We didn't change it. We didn't change it. We did not change the number of green waste bins you can put out. Staff put forward a proposal to change it and asked for the village update. Council rejected it. We did not, there has never been a change.
Right.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it was announced. But it
Well,
was-
what Fred's arguing is,
Correct.
if Fred's arguing to maintain status quo, I would suggest.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, thank you very much for the questions and discussion. We'll move to item number 6, delegations. There is no delegations this evening. Item number 7, review and approval of the minutes. That's been deferred. Item number 8, business arising from minutes, deferred the minutes. Item number 9, unfinished business. We'll move to 265. Follow up with the ministry regarding vacancy tax, report back to council. Councillor Reuter. Any progress on that?
Yeah, I'm just trying to pull something up here. Sorry, I had some back and forth with the Ministry of Finance. I'm just trying to find this item. Perhaps you could just move on. I'll come back to this and I'll find my spot.
Okay.
Yep.
Item number 266, present budget to council. We've got that under new business. Do you want to address it now, Mr. Miller, or later under new business budget discussions in committee?
Up to you.
Let's do it when on the agenda, where it's on the agenda.
Yeah, why don't we do it? We'll do it under 14 then, budget discussions.
Yeah.
Okay. Item number 277. This is report to council the number of resident firefighters who registered as exempt to secondary suite surcharge. Mr. Miller.
It's in there, isn't it? Six.
Says 6 firefighters. Anything further you want to add?
No.
Okay.
It's a simple number.
Okay, item 278 is complete, and that's the construction from survey design, construction water main. Okay, anything to add?
That's just a word. There was an extra word in there.
Item 279, discussion candidate information posting with the chief electoral officer. Mr. Miller, anything to add? It says complete.
No, it's all done. It's finished. It's finalized.
Okay, back to Councilor Reuter.
Yeah, just briefly, I've had some communication with the Ministry of Finance. One of the initial questions was the confusion as to whether we would be included in the speculation vacancy tax area. And then there was also some question as to how many days one would have to occupy one's house to qualify as it being for residency purposes. The question, so as to whether the area, as to whether we are falling under the jurisdiction of this act, came up because there was only a news release dated July 20th, but the act actually hadn't been updated to reflect or appeared not to include Lions Bay. The answer back, just as a preliminary information from the Ministry of Finance, is that they had decided to wait after the declaration period for the 2022 year, which would have been at the beginning of this year, before updating the website, their website, so as not to cause any confusion. So we are included, and their website will be updated at some point here now to reflect that fact. And that will likely be seen in May. And as to the question that was brought up in the previous council as to how long you need to occupy your residence to qualify to not fall under the to not be subject to this. The definition is quite simply you must be in it for longer than any other place. A principal residence is defined as the property at which the owner resides for a longer period in a calendar year than any other place. So it's not 180 days, it's not 181. So if you had 3 houses, it's kind of open. It's different than a capital gains definition. So anyway, that's the information I have so far. So I just wanted to get something out to the people who have questions on this and are wondering about how these things are interpreted, but I'll be following up further with this on this matter.
Okay. Any questions for Councilor Reuter?
That sounds pretty odd to be at 10 homes.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
okay.
37 days in one and 35 in the other 9, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, we'll move to item number 10, reports. We added the mayor's verbal report. TransLink, there was a question from one of our residents on the bus schedules to Lions Bay in the springtime here. They're running sporadic and start later in the morning. TransLink informed me that starting up on June 26th, it'll increase to the same scheduling that we had last year. Apparently starts at 7:18 in the morning. And from the spring schedule, which starts at 10:18. And the reason the resident was asking about that was because of course our hikers coming to the community and the additional traffic. So that's good news. The schedule will be the same as last year's.
When you said June?
June 20th.
Yeah, it's launched June 26th is our summer schedule.
Sounds late, yeah. Maybe next year we should try hope to launch it in the spring, I would have thought.
We can definitely request that.
Yeah, because I mean.
I'm sure they probably looked at the.
Peak hiking starts as soon as the spring starts, right?
Last weekend, yeah.
Yeah, last weekend. So Zoom.
That's a lot better than not having it.
Okay, Metro meetings, had an interesting conversation. And this was sort of a sidebar conversation and it was really spurred by Carl Burr's focus on water and the talk of, I think he had done a study at some time on pipeline to Lions Bay and some of the other communities just south of us. So I did bring it up with the mayor of West Van and he quickly brought in the sewer and the water staff from Metro and they started bantering back and forth, which was kind of interesting, but still very preliminary. But I said, should we get Carl together with him? Because I know Carl Burr has done extensive work. So yeah, I just thought I'd bring that to the table. Again, very preliminary. So
it's an alternate water source.
Water and sewer they're looking at?
Well, the discussion was water, sewer, gas, but like I say, very preliminary. And yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're never going to get that, right? I mean, we all know that, right?
Worth a try.
Carl seemed very excited about that opportunity, and there's also been discussions about drilling. So I think we have to keep an open mind. But
how far does water come now? To
I understand there's it doesn't go to Sunset, so Sunset would be one community that the West Van said they'd be interested in feeding those other communities. But again, this is maybe pie in the sky. We'll have to explore it and put, I think, staff together with the Metro staff.
It doesn't even go to Seascapes. I don't think it comes past Horseshoe Bay.
No, they have their own.
Doesn't come past. Have their own.
Seascapes it doesn't go past Horseshoe Bay.
Yeah. Okay, the other item was the memo that we got from the fire chief, and I think all of us received that, but I thought it was worthwhile bringing it forward just because this time of year. And that's from Barrett Grimmerscheid, and he talks about the Lions Bay Rescue's developed 3-part plan to address the potential wildfires. And 3 of the areas are the continual wildland interface, intermix firefighting training with the Lions Bay residents, the equipment procurement and maintaining in the state of readiness, and the public education. So I know Barrett is doing work and is communicating with the other emergency response teams. And any of the other councillors would like to add?
Yeah, it brings to mind Phil's contract, Red Cape, in the evacuation plan. Has that been done?
Phil
Fulkerson.
Phil Fulkerson, emergency planning committee meeting. I mean, we're due to get another one going.
Has a plan been done?
No, has he received a contract? He was going to be working on the evacuation plan. We had a meeting here a month or so back, and he still hadn't received a contract for this year.
No, I'm not aware of one. Wasn't sure I was getting one to him. No, Andrew and I know Barrett. No, I'm not aware of.
You had a meeting with him in this
I
chamber.
don't remember contract. I don't remember discussing a contract.
Yeah, his contract last year expired. He needed a new one. Came and told us he wanted 30K. So we got in the budget for 40 for some reason, because that was last year. Last I spoke to him,
It could be done. It just doesn't ring a bell.
All right.
Let's just go to, anyway, we need that because we need that evacuation.
Why don't you look into that? I know Phil is corresponding with Barrett, so they are communicating. Okay, that's everything for me. Staff action, CAO accounts payable checklist, page number 21. Any comments? Mr. Miller, any questions for Mr. Miller? The recommendation is a motion that the report accounts payable checklisting be received for information purposes. We have a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, discussion.
Yeah, obviously, we didn't have a lot of time on this because we've got it recently, but a few things jumped out at me in names that I haven't seen, large dollar values. First one, a company I do know, Cinco. What are we purchasing from Cinco? Good luck.
Yeah, you'll have to put those, I have to find out exactly. I can't memorize everything here. I think I know who they are and they're in the insolvent.
Is that the bridge
No,
contract?
they're insolvent.
Okay.
They're a big problem.
I'm thinking of someone else, different Cinco. Oh, yeah, gotcha. Okay. That's the bridge
Is that
contract.
the
That's the bridge contract.
bridge?
Okay, that's the bridge contract.
All right.
I was thinking of a different Cinco. The other one is,
That's the bridge contract that's gone from 2.25 to almost 4.25.
Yes, partly due to that company. That's
Right.
we're talking about.
Yeah, okay.
sorry, that was my bad. I should remember.
No, that's okay.
It's two different companies called Cinco. Your city solution. You know, those are, I've never seen that name before. But two line items for them. One is like 34K and another one, it's on if you look at the on page 21, almost smack in the middle of the page.
First page.
On page 21,
Yeah. And what is it?
your city solutions, two line
Oh,
items.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Anyone, any idea who they are?
yours, yeah, 34,000, yeah,
And then another one for 6,000.
yeah.
Let me find out.
Okay, any other questions? No, or Councillor Abbott?
Just put it down here. Yeah, I just want to just point out something here and it will come up later in the budget discussion. So by the end of March, we had paid out on the election $7,300 to the 3 election officers, or the 1 election officer and the 2 deputies by the end of March. Total of $7,300, but I'll mention that if we get on the budget stuff, if we get.
Okay, Councillor Reuter, any questions?
Yeah, I just got this yesterday, so I'll reserve my questions for another time.
Okay, Councillor Broughton?
I'm just going to be very interested once we do the parking analysis and so on, because we're looking at some fairly significant numbers in terms of parking meters, technology to support the parking, looking at just to really understand the expenditures. And something that we've been, trying to do since taking office, and I'm really pleased that we're going to have the data that we can actually start to understand what our costing is and maybe where we can get some efficiencies and some saving.
Okay. Okay, I'll call the question.
One comment on that my city solutions might be part of the parking. That might. Well,
Right.
that's too early. Sorry.
Okay,
Your city solution.
Yeah, it's too early.
all right, we'll call a question to receive the information, the accounts payable for information purposes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Opposed, carried. Okay, item number B, Councillor Broughton, Minister of Highways, Infrastructure. Over to you.
Okay, yeah, I was able to be in touch with Tom Clucci from Miller Capilano, who confirmed that the contract would be let or had they were going ahead with the installation of quiet pavement, so-called quiet pavement. It has another name which I can never remember. And so it's now quiet pavement is only part of the sound mitigation plan for the community, but it's a significant part of it. So that's good news. As a result of that, getting that information, I submitted a few paragraphs to the village update. And as a result of that, I've had about 4 or 5 residents come forward and say, listen, what can I do to help? So we've discussed previously moving forward with the highway committee. So as we move ahead, I've got some names of people already interested in serving on that. So that's looking good. So Mr. Cloutier was saying that first of all, he was really pleased to be in communication, that I had contacted him over a number of times and was looking forward to a good relationship with Lions Bay, and said he hadn't had a lot of contact with the village, which surprised me. They're lining up a contractor, and it's also special materials. So he could not give me any kind of a specific date, but he did say that they did require good weather. So it's going to be a little while, but it's going to happen. So that's great news.
Okay, great. Any questions, Councillor Ryder?
Yeah, question. Michael, in the village update in your piece there, it sounds like the plan also includes sound walls. I mean, has Modi and now told us that they're going to place sound walls? I mean, that's a couple of kilometers through the village. I mean, that's millions of dollars. I mean, what's the discussion around that?
That is not what.
Just to read from the village update, this plan also includes sound wall
monitoring concerns about the other things. It's only part of it. Yeah, we currently have sound walls. We have a significant number of sound walls. Part of the sound mitigation plan was the installation of sound walls and monitoring.
Sure.
And concerns about sound sources and speed. So those will be an ongoing discussion.
So we have a couple of sound walls. We have many parts of the village that don't have those, and probably residents would very much like to see some of those. But so just to be clear, your discussions with them did not
commit to sound walls.
Okay, because that's the impression that was created in the village update.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
So, and monitoring, what are they planning to do there?
The ongoing commitment from Moti had been to we'll have to look at the contract, but there was actually a contract to monitor sound level and do their best efforts to try to control sound level. Now, that was all during the name of the committee. Right. The Highway Advisory Group. That's right. Was involved and negotiated with highways at that time. And that was all during the actually between 2000 and about 2008 during highway construction. So
it's interesting, the pervious pavement. I mean, I monitor the sound all the time because I live right above it there. Yeah. And I mean, there's something we all need to be aware of. We've made a big deal about pervious pavement, even a double full layer. And I don't know if they're going to give us that, or a single layer. The sound reduction on that is very, very minimal. So I was very excited to see something about sound walls. But I kind of doubt that they're going to be putting up sound walls that are adequate. And pervious pavement, of course, will not help much with what we all suffer from, which is loud motorcycles, semi trucks going through. So we clearly need to keep working on this. It's much more than pavement. Just the information out of Northern Europe, Scandinavia, is that, as far as I can tell, is that a brand new double layer pervious pavement will give you a decibel reduction of about 3 to 5 decibels. And that's, from an average monitored decibel level of 55. So a very, very minimal reduction. So the pervious pavement would be one part of the plan, but I don't see how it's going to do much about the extraordinary loud pipe noises and semi-truck traffic. So we probably need to address this on a number of fronts.
That's certainly the case.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
I was going to go to Councillor Abbott.
I'm sorry.
No, interesting discussion. I think we said we were going to have a committee for this, and if I recall, it was going to be Marcus and Michael. So sounds like those are the two who've got the most knowledge on it. So look forward to seeing that get going.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to get that going.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Michael, and
Okay.
sharing that information and stuff, you know.
Case. Second item was pancake breakfast. In my capacity as the Lions Bay School liaison person, I attended the pancake breakfast last Thursday. And it was a fundraiser for the Lions Bay PAC. So it was a great event. So just to highlight that was lots of incredible volunteer activity in the community. Third item I've got here is the House on Community Forum. I represented the village on the House on Community Forum on Friday, April the 21st. And just before the event, I was asked to be the dock host in Lions Bay. So I was basically a Walmart greeter for the village. And there were 24 people actually came to the village from Squamish, Whistler, West Vancouver, our MP and some others. And 2 water taxis took us over to Gibson's. And the House on Community Forum is just a great opportunity to bring people together. But some of the sort of sidebar things that were really, really helpful, that I found really helpful, there's a lot of discussion around watershed protection, common issue throughout the corridor. Also, of course, last summer's water shortages, the Sunshine Coast in particular has lots of interesting information, and they're working with wells, and they're trying to protect their aquifer. So that's very all the different organized or groups or communities have different challenges. The electoral area people were particularly concerned about growth in the corridor. Furry Creek is proposing something in the neighborhood of 1,000 units over the next number of years, with a hotel, marina, a complete community there. Britannia is looking at something in the neighborhood of 1,000 units going forward over the next. We're not sure what the timeline looks like, but we're already seeing the raised commercial area there. And there's going to be some townhome development there, childcare, a store, restaurants. All different areas are looking at not only building, but also making sure that there's affordable housing to support the people who live in those areas. So it really is a recurring theme over and over and over again. Also, hot topics, particularly through lunchtime, was hiring issues in all the various jurisdictions. And problems of people with 36% of positions in municipalities currently open. There's a huge amount of mobility going on. Whistler was desperately looking for plan checkers, which caught my attention. And there's a shortage of building inspectors and so on. So our MP, though, had some interesting things for the Climate Action Committee. He was talking about some watershed restoration funding, which we'll find out more about that. In the last meeting, I think I referred to as housing acceleration policy. Something I found really interesting, Lions Bay has very high EV use, which is no surprise. If you go down to the store and check at the post boxes, half the cars in the parking lot are electric in Lions Bay, it seems. But Lions Bay has the top per capita number of electric vehicles in Metro, which means the top number of per capita in BC. So that's kind of interesting. There's also some funding available for vessel remediation, that is the abandoned vessels in Howe Sound. So a lot of discussion around, of course, the maintenance of the health of Howe Sound, but also there was a presentation on a community carbon tracker, which data is going to be provided to all the different communities in around Howe Sound. And those will be available to us at no cost. So what they were talking about is we must measure in order to manage our pollutants and in order to make data-driven decisions. So it's really a useful meeting. And I really encourage all council to, anytime you can attend, the next one will be in Whistler. And the tremendous attendance by all the different municipalities and the incredible topics that are covered is just incredible. And of course, it's chaired by Lions Bay's Ruth Simons. So good connection to Lions Bay.
Okay, thanks for that update. Any questions, Councilor Brown?
Yeah, I'd have a comment. The increased activity and development and density that we see to the north of us will only continue. And again, as per our highway committee, I've always said that the highway is the elephant in our room. So we really are going to see things likely only get worse on that front. So we really do need to get going on that.
And, you know, picking up on your point earlier, it's a multifaceted approach you've got to take.
Oh, yeah.
With ICBC, with RCMP, with highways, with the ministry to get support so everybody's not pointing at each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll move to item number C, 10C in this committee's Lions Bay Beach Advisory Committee, and we'll pass it over to Michael now.
Yeah, I wasn't able to attend the meeting. I had a sick pet. I rushed to hospital as the meeting started, unfortunately. So I'll let Michael lead most of the conversation, although I have been.
For sure. We've been putting this on the agenda each time because just to update the community that things are moving forward very quickly and very positively with the beach park. So an RFP was put out for the built form design a few weeks ago, and that closed last Friday. So we do have bids that will be dealt with in the next week or so. And so that's to do with the washroom design, the lorry deck, and the hard surface repurposing of the existing washroom. So that's pretty exciting. Right now, the committee is working on an RFP for the playground and getting proposals in terms of playground enhancement and replacement for both the Tots playground and also the children's playground. So that's very exciting to have these things moving forward. And currently, there's council will be looking at the purchasing and procurement and policy, which will assist in having things move forward in a really timely way. So
okay, thank
things
you.
Things are good.
Councillor Abbott, anything further you want to add?
No, we need to have a discussion with staff, obviously, on this RFP and deciding what the next step is, because obviously neither council nor the committee can contract anyone.
No, committee come out of contract.
So we just need to discuss those next steps. We can probably do that. So
Welcome.
Okay, great.
Committees can only make recommendations at any level. So yeah.
Okay. All right, move to item number 10C2. We have a motion to receive the information on the Lions Bay Climate Action Committee. I noticed there's quite a report there, so
yeah.
Do we have a motion to receive that information?
So
Second. Yep. Okay, discussion. We'll hand it over to you, Neville.
Okay, so the committee met again last week. Unfortunately, two members got stuck with flight delays and one was out of country, but we did have a quorum. So we didn't do as much as we did. We did move forward on a few issues, and there's three things I was asked to explore further or bring back to council. I don't have any resolutions to put forward at this stage. But there's some things that are presented. We do need one. But in this stage, no resolutions. The first one was the mini site recycling depot at the workshop. So this started on the previous council term. Then Councillor Jamie Cunliffe was the person that was sort of leading this. It resulted in the committee getting a quote from a company called Keep It Green Recycling, which I said see attached, didn't get attached. Not a big issue. Well, maybe it is attached, I just didn't swipe. And that didn't come to council because it arrived just at the end of the term. The committee asked me, and I spoke to the workshop manager before he resigned about this idea, and he suggested we speak with George Jasper from Waste Collection Services, who are our current garbage and recycling collectors. We invited him to the committee. We also invited the workshop manager, and that time both Nye and Carl just come into the position. Were unavailable, unfortunately. We had a very good conversation with George Jasper, and he explained what we could and couldn't do, and what the low-hanging fruit, and what we should be doing. He sort of verified the quotes that Keep It Green had given us, which was around $300 per month to do a mini recycling depot. It's basically going to be arriving with a cube van once a month to pick up the containers. We're not talking about big skips or dumpsters. We're talking about small containers. He also gave us he also suggested we could also reduce that by $50 a month if we work with Recycle BC, because they might give us free technically because of the program we're on. All good stuff. My ask you on next steps are that Celeste co-chairs of a discussion with the workshop manager when he's back. I believe he's out of town at the moment. And I also want to ask that we can put this $350 a month into the budget discussion for Thursday, and see if we have agreement to move that forward and include as part of the budget. And then you'll report back to the public work from the public works manager to the next council meeting. There's the 3 steps there. 3S.
I just asked a question. How does that differ from what we have now with the recycling?
Okay, sorry, yeah, I didn't explain that. So, okay, so currently the big items that you can recycle currently are your plastics and styrofoam. And some people throw those in their blue bins. Others throw them in the garbage, but the only answer is you're supposed to put them in your car and drive them out to Westland, or sorry, out to Northland, transfer depot, or one of the recycle depots. That's what you have to do with it. If you throw it in your blue bin, Recycle BC actually monitor how much of our blue bin is contaminants. And if we exceed 3%, the $25,000 they give us gets reduced. They claw some back. So the real part of this, the best part of this program is if we can get those dropped off at the waste yard, at the workshop, and encourage better recycling practices, we're unlikely to trigger that, we're less likely to trigger that 3%. As well as obviously we're doing, recycling, better recycling for the planet for the good of all. So that's the big thing. And then we discussed other things we could take down: batteries, light bulbs, all those pretty simple things. And they're all easy to do. They cost little to no money. And that would just be a benefit for residents. Because once again, a lot of people will take them, hoping most, drive out to the transfer depot, the North Shore transfer station, or take them to one of the recycling depots. But we know that not all do. So we're trying to give them another option. So the idea that I discussed with Nye was we already have 2 hours on a Friday morning and 3 hours on a Saturday morning where the workshops open during the summer to help people that can't manage their air attractants, their green waste and garbage during the correct windows. And the idea is on those same hours, we'd start this program and see how it works. So it wouldn't involve additional staff time, but it would give people the option for this additional recycling. And then when we get into the, obviously an educational program and all the rest. The other thing was a little interesting, people may be interested in, a few months ago, actually no, last year sometime, I went to the North Shore transfer station with my plastic bags of plastics. I'm one of those that stores up in the garage and thought, no, we can get the car and take it. It's not that bad. Took it down there and they told me to separate my plastic bags into two streams. One for the soft plastics and one for the laminates. The laminates are anything that's crinkly or has something else. Soft plastics, bread bags. So I sat there for half an hour and Julie sorted all of mine out. A lot of people said, you know, screw you, just dumped and walked away. But I thought I'd do my bit. So Julie sorted mine out. The next time I went back, they weren't doing it anymore. The reason they're not doing it is because they got too much pushback. I think in Lions Bay, we could do that. And that is the only true way to recycle plastic. Because the laminates or the pinky stuff gets burnt and energy is generated from it, but it can't be recycled. Only the soft stuff can be. So what we'd be trying to do is take it to the next step, and it's just one more step, keeping two streams of plastic. And if we do that, Recycle BC will be very supportive, and then soon they'd probably say we don't have to pay any tipping fees. So it'll be a big win there. So that's part of the program. And obviously we also do, you know, the other styrofoam and the other stuff. Lots to discuss there, but it's probably enough for now. Don't ask me any more questions if you don't want me to go on.
No, it's, I mean, plastic's the problem, obviously. Every week you've got bins that are overflowing with it.
Right. And I think the takeaway for me was that if we spend $300 or $350 on a bin, that we will then clean up our recycle.
Well, $300 a month.
A month, yes.
Yes, for the
Yes.
collection fee. Yeah.
Correct. And then we are then not jeopardizing the Recycle BC grant, which is much larger.
Which is
Yeah.
protecting the $26,000 we got
Yes.
last year.
So it's
Yeah.
a no-brainer.
That's a win-win.
Yeah.
Okay, anything further? Call the question on receiving this information?
Yeah, that was just the one, I had 3 things, so I'll try to keep the next one a little shorter. Second one was the disaster mitigation adoption fund. That's come to council before. We've been trying to get something going on this. It ended up, you know, at the Climate Action Committee meeting largely because although several of the committee members thought this was really an infrastructure issue, you know, we've had staffing issues and we haven't dealt with this, and we haven't dealt with it since January. And it's a July 19th deadline. I have mentioned it to Carl. But if we don't take action, and they need staff action, if we don't take action on this now, we're going to lose this grant opportunity. My suggestion, which I've explored with Carl and 9 previous workshop managers, is that we should be looking at a village-wide drainage program, which is something that we have to do anyway. And the nice thing about this grant is really wide open. Although it's only 40% grant, you have until 2032 to complete it. You can do multiple projects as long as they're around one issue or one theme. So we could apply for this grant, and then we could do the ditch drainage projects over, you know, the next decade effectively, and pay 60 cents on the dollar on something we have to do anyway. So I really think that's something we should take a run at. So $1.4 billion allocation, but you know, it'll be oversubscribed, so we'd have to put a good effort in. But we do need to take action on it fast. And so, you know, my question here is, we did bring this to staff before in previous meetings. Right now, I'd like to once again, you know, the co-chairs to sit down with the workshop manager, schedule a meeting with them, discuss, you know, our suggestion, or maybe there's others, maybe there's a different idea. And then, you know, asking the acting CAO to confirm staff availability to move this forward. You know, if we feel we're moving forward, I think it should be part of the annual budget discussion. Or I guess it's a potential grant, not a grant that's in this. It's probably not in the budget. But I certainly want us to, you know, allocate appropriate effort if it needs to be discussed in the budget, to take a shot at this grant. As I said, July 19th, not far away.
Okay, I'm sure Carl would have lots of input for that.
He would, yes. I think that's the key guy. Hopefully you can find the time. The third one was the communications issue. I think some of us know the Climate Action Committee submitted something to the village update a few months back. The CAO edited it because he felt it was controversial, political. The Climate Action Committee wants to keep the public engagement going and the communications and education of the public around climate issues. They do not want to submit something that gets arbitrarily edited without coming back to them. I've put in here a reference and a note to the our village update policy number 1704, which says the CAO may suggest edits to the writer, and in event of an impasse, he may refuse to publish, but he does not get to edit at his own discretion. And I also wanted to remind everyone here, the CEO, that the previous council declared a climate emergency. I've shown you the resolution where it is. If you go to our village website and you follow that link to the village website, it takes you straight to that. And it reads, it is therefore resolved that the council recognizes that climate change constitutes an emergency for the village of Lions Bay. And I think that statement is how these village update pieces or whatever educational material we want to put out should be viewed. And so I'm just asking for some commitment that that's what will happen. And then we'll start our education program again. Any comments, Ron?
Sure, I can answer that. First of all, it's unaware that I didn't see the prior bylaw saying this was a climate emergency. But I think our policy moving forward is whatever you have to say like that, the link will be there to your webpage or to your where it is that you're going to address it. We're going to do that with all committees.
What webpage would that be?
Where is it that do you have your own webpage or how are you doing?
No.
Most committees don't have web pages, no.
The village update is where we put information out where committees go out. Yeah.
This information is on the village update, and on the village website at the moment.
Village website.
Well, in this case, since if there's a resolution saying that we're in a climate emergency, then I'll be less likely to edit it.
Okay, and if you do choose to edit it, you will come back to the writer.
Councillor Broughton, you had your hand up.
Okay, well, I think there's a real balancing act in terms of length, whether things are edited. I would think that if a submission is particularly lengthy, it should perhaps be abbreviated.
Sure, Michael, I don't mean to cut you off, but the edits here were removing words like crisis.
Right.
From the climate crisis.
Yeah, okay, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Yeah, I'm getting there. Okay, so so I think there's a balance in terms of, if something is very long, then there should be there would be edits to that to keep the village update, interesting, and then we should be using links if there is longer pieces. If there's more data that a committee or a group wants to get to, then I know that we're looking at doing that with the Lions Bay Beach Park in terms of giving a interesting piece, and then if you really want to dig down deeper, you can go somewhere else. I understand Councillor Abbott's concern that the submission was apparently changed. And so I'm certainly sympathetic to that, and I'm hearing that we would check in with them or whatever about that in the future. So.
Okay, we'll call the question to receive the information.
Can I just add one other thing? So, the policy 1704, which Ron, you have had have at least had one discussion with Neville and me on. Can we get a commitment from you now that this will operate as per the policy so that you will come back?
It's in accordance with the policy, just your interpretation may be different than mine.
Well, I think the culling or arbitrary culling of information is inconsistent. So what we're asking for is that you follow the policy and consult with the writer as to the edits.
The last time we had this discussion, you made it very clear to me that I should be more active in editing these documents. Now you're stating the opposite.
Not editing, not arbitrary edits. I mean, I'm just asking you to follow the policy on it.
And I think I do follow policy. In this particular case, I accept I was not aware this was considered a climate crisis. Had I known that, I would have certainly done something different.
I guess
Okay,
that,
gentlemen, it's the information piece.
yeah, I just
We've
want
had
to clarify.
wholesome enough discussion.
I just want to clarify
One last comment.
which is, thank you, is that the editing is not done in a dark room, but that you consult with the writer as to the edits. The author, right? That's part of the policy. That's what we're asking for here. If that's acceptable to you.
Already answered the question.
Okay. All right, we'll call the question to receive this information. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Next item is.
One little comment.
Mhm.
Councillor Abbott asked a question on a check that was written, 34,000 in your city solutions. The Corey Seville, he did it, it's before my time, he did a very large asset management report.
Sorry, yeah,
No, it's a good question.
I remember them now. Okay.
Okay. All right, item number 11, resolutions, on table. Item number 12 is the bylaws, the approval of the 3 bylaws, each of which has undergone 3 readings in the past, and those are the water rates and regulations bylaw, the sewer user rates bylaw, and the garbage and recycling collection bylaw. So do we have a motion that the water rates and regulation bylaw number 2, dated 1971 amendment bylaw number 626, 2023 be adopted as amended?
So moved.
Second discussion.
So we have on table the budget, right? You got it there? Yeah. So just to be clear, the budget actually shows the 5% increase as we discussed in the last meeting. The minutes here were a little bit confused by what happened in the finance committee meeting, but just to be clear, we are moving that in accordance with this budget the way it is, correct?
That's completely correct.
Okay, I'm good. That's my only question.
Okay, Councillor Ryder, any questions?
Yeah, that would be my question as well, whether we are now approving, because there were several options for approval, and I had heard something in the finance committee about a 0% increase. So I presume that we're approving what we had discussed with the in our previous council meeting. Is that right?
Just answered it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Broughton? Any
No,
questions? Okay,
this is the adoption of the bylaws and read 3 times.
okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Could I just ask one more question here? What about the discussion about moving something from we had something where we were going to draw
Talk about the CapEx.
the CapEx item.
So
Yes.
all, it would seem from this budget that we're about to start looking at and discussing, all the CapEx items have been moved to the big budget discussion.
Yeah.
So we're not drawing from reserves
Okay,
on the utilities taxes to support a 0%.
very good.
Okay, all those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, second item, do we have a motion for the, that the sewer user rates bylaw, okay? 122, 18, moved, second, okay, discussion? No, okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, the third item is the garbage and recycling collection bylaw number 455. 2013 amendment bylaw number 682, 2023, motion.
Just a comment from earlier on that this does not include any change to the existing contract. This is just the enabling billing component, right? So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion that the garbage and recycling bylaw is approved, motion second, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, we'll move to item number 13, correspondence, and Councillor Broughton.
Okay.
You.
Councillor Reuter and I had a discussion earlier on. It's May the 2nd, and technically I'm at the end of my 3-month period and he's at the beginning of his. So, but I've looked at the correspondence and emails. So join me on some of the brief discussion hopefully we'll have here. The two items that came in from outside, one was on sex exploitation. Profoundly concerning topic. And interestingly, Princess Anne last night, I never thought I'd be quoting Princess Anne on CBC, was talking about, was asked a question about the monarchy and slavery. And this was discussed, as she mentioned, a form of human slavery that continues in 2023. So it's a very serious topic, and there is information for people who would be interested in an online workshop or online information, May 3rd to 5th, which is tomorrow to Friday. So just wanted to draw that attention to on a very serious topic. So,
Michael, can I just jump in here?
Sure.
The what was astounding to me here is that we don't have any protection. It's not enforced in BC here, which was quite concerning here. That the federal law is not enforced in BC, and that we are one of the most the most notorious jurisdiction. So there will be a booth at the UBCM. So anyone who's interested in that could attend and get more information there.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, the second was the letter from Owen Ma regarding funding opportunities for extreme climate issues. And so I just wanted to refer that both to staff and to the Climate Action Committee again. But there's funding there and concerns regarding climate change timely to our discussion earlier tonight already. So
and possible reimbursement of eligible costs is mentioned as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Looking at the residents' letters, R1 was actually mentioned earlier on by Deanna Campbell. And so I was not going to discuss that item. She suggested that be removed because it was at a, she suggested it be removed. Item 2 was omitted. 3 was Ms. McLaughlin expressing disappointment about that there was not an all candidates meeting. Item 4 from Alison Dudley promoting the slug race, which I think we should all get behind. And that's regarding support for the family that Lions Bay adopted a number of years ago, and it looks like will be that program will be expanded. I found it really heartening that that Lions Bay has taken these families under their arm, and that really is true Lions Bay.
So that's on the 7th, right?
That's on the 7th, Sunday, the 7th, at the end of Sunset.
Yeah.
I believe. So
Just to be clear, on the south end of Sunset,
South.
not the trailhead side.
Okay.
It's right after.
Right outside Councillor Abbas's. But subject to slugs being okay.
And we've been assured that the slugs have been well treated. So if anyone on the environmental side is concerned, Alison has assured us that.
No slug will be harmed during this event. Okay, Mr. Casperson indicated a concern about an interruption during the meeting, and I was surprised actually that the sound was on. I think we all were surprised by that, and I don't think that another resident would have the option in the future of making a comment. And I think that was a sort of a one-off event.
So we would concur that was inappropriate, and we should make efforts not to allow that to happen. I think that's. Since I'll be responding to these, that would be the direction of council. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. R6 and 7 were. I had responded to those, and sorry, the writer who had lost here for a second.
Normal
I don't
roads,
think it's, sorry?
or 6 and 7 are normal roads.
Or Norma, okay, yeah. Was Norma, and I don't think she's happy with my response on that, so perhaps further response will be helpful. R8 is.
So can I just ask here on this one, if I'm to respond to this? I think that what she's looking for here is a response from not me as to the view of council on this, but from Mayor Barry and Councillor Broughton. So are you guys going to respond to this particular piece here?
Yeah, I can respond to that.
Okay.
Okay, 8 is omitted. 9, summer schedule. Mayor has already spoken to that in terms of TransLink. Number R10 is regarding best practice in recording of minutes and giving council some advice on how to proceed with that. I just want to point out that our municipal advisor, Randy Deal, has given us some guidance in terms of our minutes and keeping them quite crisp. And we also have a further advisor in Deanna Campbell, who's joined us this evening. So I trust that both of them will, that our minutes will reflect the practices that they're encouraging us to undertake. So.
Michael, can I just jump in here? I forget.
Can.
I'm down in the package here. Did we skip over this one? The question as to the municipal advisors. What would be the direction of council there? The question from Norma Rogers. She's asking whether it wouldn't be more cost effective to simply hire municipally trained staff. So what would be the direction of council on answering that one?
Can I just interject for a second? Deanna, if I may ask you, how do other councils handle these letters? Because sometimes it becomes, in my opinion, an agenda within an agenda, or how do we streamline this, or how do you deal with it? Just so I understand.
Sure. So usually there's 2 sections under correspondence on an agenda, one for information, one for action. So if it's very clear in the piece of correspondence that the requester is requesting an action, then council will discuss those particular pieces of correspondence and then decide what the direction is. So the option could be directing staff to respond to the letter writer. If it's an operational matter, the direction could be that the mayor on behalf of council will follow up, or there might be no action taken. So it's really up to council. I think some of the letters that might have been on this agenda, some of them perhaps might have just been able to be circulated and wouldn't need to be discussed, but that's up to council really.
I think these are all circulated, so we've all seen them in advance. They're being published in the agenda. So is it the sort of standard then to discuss it, or does we split up, we each quarter a different counselor and looks after the responding to the letter. So they're going to be responded to, but how much discussion would you normally have then?
From my experience, not that much discussion, but you have a lot of letters, a lot of pieces of correspondence, which is not necessarily the case for all local governments. I mean, you have a lot of pieces of correspondence to respond to, and your policy does say that anything that's specifically addressed to mayor and council will go on the agenda. And council absolutely can take the opportunity to comment on the letters or ask questions about the letters, but it's really up to council to direct how you want to respond, and if you want to respond to the letter writers. It does say in your correspondence policy that the mayor will respond to all correspondence and copy all of council, or refer the matter on to staff to respond, as I said, if it's an operational matter. But as I've also mentioned, your correspondence policy is a bit out of date. So if council wishes to have a different process in place for handling correspondence, that's certainly something I can help council with in developing an updated correspondence policy if you'd like.
Okay, thank you.
Can I comment on that?
Yes.
Deanna, what our policy actually says is that at times when it's necessary or urgency or expedient, the mayor may respond. but the normal process is not really may in those cases when it's urgent.
Okay,
And if he does, he then brings it to the next council meeting for council to agree with the response. That's what it actually says. Just want to clear that up.
okay, thanks for that clarification.
Deanna, one question. So until we amend that policy, possibly, we have the practice here of being on rotation, and Michael has been handling it until now. So I guess when I'm asking for input as to the council response on a particular piece, that is how we've always done it. And I suppose we have to continue to do that until we have amended the policy. Would that make sense?
That makes sense if that's been your practice. I think you
Yeah.
can continue to follow that practice with the goal of amending the policy, so the policy actually reflects what you're doing.
Right. So I guess my question for council right now is, as to that, I guess I'd have to answer that in a very generic way, as to the cost effectiveness question. Would that be the direction from council?
That would be how I would tend to approach it, yeah.
You may be able to answer it better after we get through the budget review and the committee of the whole meeting.
Possibly,
You might have more insight.
if I wait that long. Yep. Okay.
Perfect.
Can I just move down to the next letter? And Michael, I don't know if you've gotten to that one. It refers to the Ombudsman's Best Practices Guide, and
I just
Sorry about that one.
yeah, this is segueing into a discussion we'd had with Randy. Again, that I think we'd had some discussions about, how minutes can be composed, sparse or medium or verbatim. It seems to me that the Ombudsperson's Best Practices Guide contains a lot of information that would be helpful to us. Recording minutes in sufficient detail, reporting out, passing resolutions in closed meetings, cannot be used to conceal decision-making, report out as much as possible, and as much as is practical, and implementing the best practices on this. Randy, if you're with us here, is there anything in here that would be at odds with the previous discussion that we've had regarding the practices?
Randy, just curious, Deanna had offered up earlier that she follows the best practices on these minutes.
Yeah.
Perhaps after you've spoken, she could add to this.
So I'm quite familiar with the Ombudsperson Guide for Local Governments, best practices around open meetings. So those best practices that were outlined in the piece of correspondence are actually specific to closed meetings. And certainly I wouldn't argue with the Ombudsperson's best practices in terms of closed meeting minutes, but for open meetings, Robert's Rules of Procedure and parliamentary procedure, which governs most local government meetings, unless your procedure bylaw says otherwise, is that minutes they're a really important record of the meeting, but they're not meant to be a play-by-play or verbatim of what was said. The risk in that, of course, is that it's unfair to the recording secretary to try and accurately record what everybody said. They're really meant to be a record of the decisions that were made. And it's also important to note too, that for the public, it's great that Lions Bay's meetings are actually recorded. So the public does have the ability to go back and view the council meetings if they are interested in what council members individually each said or contributed to the discussion. But really the minutes should actually just reflect high level summary if that's what council would like, but not detailed play-by-play about what was said. It should really just reflect the decisions of council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I have one comment?
Yes.
Randy, maybe directed at you. One of the ongoing workshops we're going to be having in the near future, which is part of your mandate. I'm familiar with the Ombudsperson's best practices as well from previous councils. Would that maybe be one session, a review of those suggestions that would be helpful?
Yes, through the mayor to Councillor Abbott. The workshops that I've proposed for you that you can decide whether or not you want to have them. One is strategic planning and the other one is for a full-blown governance workshop. The governance workshop should cover those details because it's important to you. You've discussed this quite a bit. So typically what I do is I survey you what you think the big issues are around governance, and then we try to address them in the workshop. So we prepare ahead of time for what we think those issues are going to be. But certainly this is one of the issues that has come up quite often, and I think I probably want to invite Deanna to at least that portion of the governance workshop to provide her expertise in the area, along with freedom of information issues as well.
Okay, thank you very much for that information, both Deanna and Randy. Any further comments?
Just to finish off. In terms of R11 was referred to works replacement of the Lions Bay flag, which is a operational issue, and R12 I believe was discussed when Ms. Dudley spoke at the beginning of the meeting. So I think that's been informed.
Did we get an answer to that?
I believe we got the fact that there's a current process. I think the current process is quite well understood.
Sure. I guess the question was, have any inspections been carried out thus far?
I could answer that.
Yeah.
We don't issue permits or inspections without a licensed person there to do it. Some of the responsibility is being passed on to architects and engineers. A lot of permits are just on hold until we can get it. But the last thing we would do is issue a permit without having the proper background or authority. And we're hoping to have a system in place within a month. Every community is going through this. We've reached out to other communities and they say they are short and they're having backlogs as well.
Sure.
Not any different than any other community.
Okay.
And the last thing I want to re-emphasize is we will not issue a permit without the proper authority or inspections.
All right.
And we have good, and the other part is, as Councillor Brown mentioned earlier, there is a committee looking into this right now, how to streamline the process.
Great.
So just to be clear though, have inspections been carried out or not?
We have not done any inspections in the last month, 2 months.
Okay, so no inspections.
No inspections.
Okay.
Like I said, we would not sign off an inspection report without the proper authority or the trained people.
Very good.
Okay, Councillor Brown, anything further?
That's it.
Okay, so the motion was following correspondence be received. Do we have a second? All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, opposed, carried. All right, we'll go right to new business, budget discussions. And
I can have a general discussion. The budget has been posted. Comments were made about adding explanatory notes. They should have been uploaded. I'm getting different opinions. They should have been uploaded this morning with the notes. I think there might be a link issue, but the notes have been added to it. Do plan for a more specific committee as a whole meeting on Thursday to do a detailed review of the budget. We do expect to have the budget approved on time. As we talked about earlier today, we are hoping to have a special meeting next week and then a meeting right after it within 1-2 days for the final reading. So everything is on target to be approved and submitted. The issues are, and that's a general discussion, is what will the increase in property taxes be? And that will be a good discussion and a debate.
okay, there was one question during the Q&A at the beginning, and it was the community feedback. Have we received any community feedback on the posting?
The email is there, which will be distributed to all of council. That's just, and like, it's not like we're going to vet any emails or any comments, and we have not received any yet.
Okay.
I mean, this is as of 12 o'clock. I'm going to say right 3 o'clock today.
Okay. Well, I just have to commend you. I think this is the first time that the budget's been posted for the residents, is it? Or?
That's correct.
Okay, so
and we welcome, sorry, if I can emphasize that, we welcome any feedback. What we're looking for, the feedback is it's the dollars explain everything. Where would you like to see changes? To see a change costs money. And we would gladly consider any input of where they think the changes should be. But any change always gets down to $1.
And what sort of changes are you expecting? Like, can people offer up, I want to see our bridge railings.
Exactly.
Fixed up
Or-
because.
The Bear Smart bylaw officers, if you'd like to see more of that, like there's a concern about those bylaws or permitting process. It comes down to additional bylaw officers. And there's nothing wrong with that. We just need to know parking, for example. It's a recurring theme, but I hope we've addressed that. But there's other things. Is the grass green enough? Are the streets clean enough?
So the questions can be all.
Could be anything.
Very. Okay,
And we welcome any question.
okay,
So are,
the,
Yes.
go ahead.
Councillor Abbott.
Okay, having been through 4 budgeting cycles on the previous council, couple of observations. One, yes, you might be right, we never posted the budgets before, but the budgets always came to the council meetings, and they came to several council meetings, which of course those agendas were freely available to residents, so they'd all seen them. And yes, they always had the notes with them. I'll leave that one now that we've got that straightened out. I'll leave that one alone. And we would do them over, we would have somewhere between 6 and 10 meetings over the budget between January. It was every meeting from January till the time we posted it. And so some of those meetings we would just look at CapEx items. Some of those meetings we would just look at utility operational items. And then it'll all get rolled together, and then we do the consolidated thing, and we always have a committee of the whole. So being familiar with that cycle, I find it difficult to accept that we're going to be able to do it this fast, with the same level of thoroughness. So I'm just making everyone aware that there's going to be a hell of a lot of work to do and a lot of stuff to understand in the next week. And it's probably going to take a long committee of the whole meeting and probably more than that. So to that point, I have gone through and looked at some of the stuff. I did spend 2.5 hours and listened to the finance committee meeting because I couldn't attend that. So I listened to all of that. I made some notes on those sheets, and then I've transferred those notes to here in my own mind, looked at some of this. I'd like to go through some of that now so that we can get to Thursday's meeting with some additional information, if everyone's good with that. But I just want to make everyone understand. So, Thursday to the 15th is going to be, 6 working days. You can plan on using the 15th because then you're going to get yourself in trouble. So we've got Thursday and next week to get these approved, and it's going to take some work.
Well, I can answer that. We've already had multiple meetings to go over the budgets. Finance committee has been completely invaluable with their input. Finance committee didn't just actually look at budgets. Some of the recommendations have probably saved $100,000. Some of the questions that they've been asked. So they spent quite a bit of time on it at a very, not a high level, a very detailed level. So it's not like there's anything coming at you at a surprise.
Okay, is that one of the questions earlier, I think, was the 7%. We haven't landed on that. There's an opportunity to reduce that with some of the savings that we've had from interest or savings on bank accounts or this and that. Can that be offset and pull that 7% down? And I think that was one of the questions from our gallery.
Completely, yes.
Okay, so that's still on the table. We haven't landed on 7%.
No, we've not landed on 7%.
Yeah.
The 7% builds up a bit of a cushion. And the question is, how much of a cushion do you want? And there can still be some cost savings.
Your question is, how many capital projects do you want to do?
That's a good question. I mean,
because that's where it swings really fast.
Well, capital projects is a different animal. We budgeted this year for the grants we know we will get. And let's say it's $2.5 million. In the next years, if we don't get the grants or we don't have a cushion, say of a split of a 20-80 split, well, that project has to be deferred, but that's mainly in next year's budget. It's part of the 5 years plan.
Okay.
So those are placeholders more than anything.
Right. Councillor Ryder, any questions?
Yeah, so we will have the full notes up on the website very shortly.
I thought they were there now. Controller Joe tells me they are there. And when I go to look, I can't find them, but then my phone doesn't do it. But at the minimum, they will be there first thing in the morning, but you've already received the notes.
Yeah, but the public hasn't, and that is a question we had earlier, is that usually this process would go over a long period of time, give residents a chance to chime in, and this is a very accelerated process, which will probably give them that will give them it is very accelerated. I mean, I mean, I think we heard from you on February 21st that the budget was almost ready, but this is, it's only very recently come to council, went up on the website without notes. So we're not going to get much public engagement in this, and that's regrettable.
Any further comments? Okay, Councilor Broughton. We'll go around the table twice.
Okay.
Councilor Broughton.
I'm concerned, I believe that we must have the funds that we need to achieve our needs. And I'm looking at both what our expenses should be and can be, and also what our income sources are. Obviously, we've got a lot of work to do in terms of grant funding. I'm delighted that just the appropriate investment of our $5 million in our bank account has achieved an additional $100,000 in interest this next year. I think we're looking at probably less consultant costs overall than we have had in previous years. I think we're looking pretty seriously. I'd like to look at senior staffing costs in terms of currently have part-time CAO and how we structure our staffing. I think it's going to impact our costing there. I think I can't remember the exact time period, but our staffing costs had increased by 50%. 50% increase over about 4 or 5 year period, as I understand. So there has been an argument that, well, people can defer their taxes. And so, we don't, if the older population, has some other alternatives. And I really am very, very opposed to that in light of the fact that it ends up eroding people's land values or the amount of funds that they have when they do go to downsize and it's become a very unpleasant surprise for some people. And they assume that there is going to be increasing in land in their housing costs. It just wasn't there when they went to move with even the slight downturn. So really looking for value of the taxes that we spend. If we're going to ask people to sustain an increase, that we ensure that they get good value for that. Really looking for in different ways that we can maximize income all right across the board, and also recognizing both the bigger economy and our residents' economy in terms of some residents who have lost investments in the economy as it's been recently. Interest rates on mortgages is going to be going up significantly. And some of our new homeowners, new residents have taken on mortgages that they're going to have pretty unpleasant surprises in terms of interest costs, and also the astounding food and energy cost increases that people have been trying to deal with. So, I think that we just really need to be responsible in the big picture. And so I'm really going to be asking in the committee of the whole that we not go with 7%. And I'm wide open to information as to what the best costing is, recognizing that we have some real challenges in our infrastructure and how can we get at that. But, a 1% increase in our taxes generates $16,000, $17,000. So while it may have a significant increase to a resident, have a 4, 5, 6, 7% increase in their taxes, the actual impact on our village taxes is not major, not massive, but you know, it's pretty pleased to see that $100,000 in bank savings is actually what, about a 5 or 6% tax potential reduction. So
Good. All right,
okay,
thanks for those.
sorry to go over the same topics
Thanks for
again,
those
but I think they're
comments.
very important.
You know, I have to commend you and your staff, Mr. Miller, savings, 100,000 a year on the interest or accumulation and banking fees and such. Hopefully that 7% comes down. I'd like to see it. I think with the other councillors, I'd like to see that come down, and I think the committee of the whole, we can go into more detail and work on that. But okay, with that, I'll move over to Councillor Abbott. You've got questions that you'd like to?
Yeah, I have a few, I sort of touch on a couple of things. Everyone likes to use this 1% of our tax equals so on thing, but I think it would be good for everyone to understand is break down where our taxes go. Because a lot of our taxes don't go into anything in the village, right?
Of course, sir.
A lot of our taxes don't go into money you can spend in the village. A lot of our taxes go to other forms of government, school, all of this stuff. So we need to, you know, if we want to use those numbers, and it's a good number.
That's what I'm speaking to, though. I'm speaking to village taxes and the amount. Sorry.
Well, I think the number's wrong with me.
Okay. In the notes, when you see them, that it goes 3, 5, 7%. So, or 5, 6, 7%. I'd never go 3%. If it's 5% increase, 6% increase, or 7% increase, the impact is in the notes.
Okay.
So you've done a sensitivity analysis. Okay. All right, so Councillor Abbott.
So it was just one comment. Another thing that we keep going wrong here, and I'm looking at the actual budget we have. By the way, I just checked the website. Same 17 pages up there, no notes. So it hasn't happened yet. One thing we keep getting wrong in these sheets several times is the infrastructure levy is 10% of the taxation rate. So if the taxes is now, as this first page shows, 1.947 million, then infrastructure levy is 195K, not 180K. So we need to start getting, and that mistake has been corrected a few times. Grants, this 2.5 million that you mentioned on grants. I think what we need to understand for the committee meeting is, first of all, I think that's high, because I think a lot of the grants aren't going to get spent as you would have thought. They're running late. You know, the Clat building is running late, the beach park's running late. So first of all, I think we need to get the time frame right. I don't think 2.5 is correct. I think it's certainly going to stretch out further. Things are going to float out to the right. The second thing we need to understand is grant equals spend, and what are we actually spending? For example, when you go down to the grants later, there's something from TransLink called $206,000. That's the connector project. But if I look at what we plan to do, I don't know what we're doing about the connector project. Council hasn't decided what they're doing about the connector project. So, you know, and maybe we don't get to decide in time for the budget, but we need both sides of the equation. And I'm not seeing that. I think that there's a misalignment there. So I think grants and CapEx need to be side by side so we can, you know, map one to the other and make sure we've got both sides of the equation. A few other observations. Here's a really small one, but just personal to me. On the transfer from surpluses, Curly Stewart, it says $750. It's $1,000 this year. And I would appreciate if we could put a note behind that this is not taxpayers' money. It's a fund, it's a fund that sits in the municipal bank account. We've raised it by donations and fundraising. It's actually sitting at $11,000 or $12,000 at the moment.
It's in there.
Yeah, well, it'll probably be in the notes, except we haven't got notes. But I think it's important to put that because we don't do it as a tax anymore. And then there's the infrastructure levy as well. That's also the wrong number. Municipal tax. On the revenues page, general municipal tax is a different number from the consolidated. I think that's the old number. So we need to fix that.
I think it's an aggregation issue. It's in the notes. It's not an incorrect number. It's all linked. It has to be correct.
Okay.
It just could be aggregating different line items.
Same line says a different value. Okay, sure. If it's in the notes, we'll understand it. Grants in lieu, this came up when I was listening to the infrastructure committee. I don't know what that is, but maybe we need to understand that. We probably have the answer in the notes, I guess.
I do know what that is, but I'll leave it for Thursday.
All right. Building permits question came up. I see we're budgeting $80,000 this year, same as last year. Is last year budgeted? However, last year actual was $40,000. So I struggle when we always budget versus last year's budget.
We don't do that.
Okay, we do a lot.
Budget, actual budget. We look at all three and try to explain the three.
Okay, so there's a good example.
But we don't do that.
Okay, so there's a good example. 40,000 last year's actual. Last year's budget was 80,300. We've gone with 80,300 again. Someone needs to explain that. Why didn't you go to last year's actual?
Right.
Second seat surcharge on the firefighters. Yeah, I might be bringing forward something for us to consider the budgeting. For other reasons, we might not do it this year, but I believe we should have a very small secondary seat surcharge or do away with it. I think part of our overall, housing strategy, we start with the really low impact, smaller stuff first. Encourage secondary suites. We've got a lot of empty secondary suites, and I think that's a deterrent. I brought it up at the last council. They didn't want to do it. They referred to what it said in the OCP. OCP doesn't pick a number. It just says something that's reasonable. I think we can pick that number ourselves, and I'd like to see that reduced significantly. It's a bit of a political discussion for other reasons, but I'll bring that to the meeting. Parking passes. So this one jumps out at me. So last year, this is parking passes, what stickers residents put on their car. For some years in last year, we had $6,880 worth of parking passes issued through the office. The budget was 2,000, and this year we're carrying 2,000. So either a lot of people are buying resident parking passes or a lot more than there should be, or something's at odds there, but I'd like to understand that. A small number in overall budget, but I think it's very relevant to the parking issues. And I have heard people tell me that they've seen non-residents with parking passes. So maybe we need more control on how we issue them. I think might be one of the incremental, not the big issue, but one of the issues on our part. Unless there's another explanation for that big number. And then there was a discussion on, parking, the net value of parking fees, and I think you were going to bring that. That came up in the finance committee meeting. So yeah, I'd like to. Also think we should explore that. Just jumping down, connected project I mentioned. Oh, gas tax. So here's one we need to talk about. So the gas tax, $62,000. And I think this is the last year of the gas tax. And I think we only have like a year to spend it. And I think we have like 600K or something there. So someone needs to come with the information on that. And maybe I'm wrong, but what I remember is we're up against the deadline to use that money. And I hope, but it's already in our bank account, so it shouldn't be a use it or lose it, but it could be. And it's a 600K number we've gathered over the last few years. So we need to understand what that is and how we intend to spend it and spend it soon.
That thing's to spend it on.
We've got plenty to spend it on, yes. Okay, between the infrastructure meeting on Friday and the budget that came out here, the general administration fund on page 6, the number went down by $40,000 exactly. And that $40,000 discussed in the meeting was for the additional special advisors we've got. That number sounds way higher than I thought we'd budgeted, unless Deanna got a huge increase. But it's now down to 0. So where did it go? It's not 0. So we need to come with an explanation of that. I don't think we expected 40,000, but it's not 0 either. So where did it go? And then in the previous meeting, I asked if I could get a labor model, and this goes right through all of these different funds. We seem to have a similar amount of spend planned this year, and other people have mentioned it. We have a similar amount of spend planned this year for salaries to what we had last year. We know we've gone 4 months with depleted staff. We can't possibly intend to expend the same amount unless we are paying everyone significantly more than we paid the previous staff, or we're planning on significant overtime. But I would like to see the Labour one will answer that, but we need that, and maybe there needs to be a closed meeting, I don't know. But I think we need to understand that, because that's still not sitting right.
I can answer that. We do have a labor model. It's not going to be uploaded. It's too much detail in it. What we did find in prior years is a lot of overtime. Prior years, there's a great deal of overtime in every department. The model now goes right down to if there's holes in months, holes in people. We have budgeted a 3% increase in labor, but there's a big reduction in people. And so that model is there. We'll go over it with you.
Okay.
How much detail? I'm not sure.
Do you see the staffing after this sort of transition settled out coming down or
Yes.
in the same area?
Frank, we've restructured the office. Great people are in each position in every department. We're seeing extreme improvements in efficiencies. We've got residents working in certain positions, and they're not just doing good jobs, they're stars in every department. And we see a couple summer students starting, we call them temporary staff, but we're not replacing a lot of these people. Like, the work is getting done. And so we see we've revised the budget again. We're seeing significantly reduced staffing costs.
Okay, I love the idea of hiring local residents.
But we're not seeing significantly reduced staffing costs on this budget, though. So that's what we need to understand.
I know. So there's a new budget coming out that's right down. This is based on the same way they did the budget last year, just assuming everybody's working. And we've assumed that all this overtime is going to come in. Well, with a bit of management, we're seeing a significant reduction in overtime. Overtime was a big cost.
Okay. It's a few other ones. This one, once again, not hugely impactful in the big numbers. Under General Fund Council, we're budgeting the same this year as last year for the council funded events. I think if you did a bottom-up estimate, it's going to be significantly less. Last year we had other events, Volunteer Appreciation Day, 50th anniversary, we had other stuff in there that I don't think we're doing this year. So I think that number should come down. Okay, the election. So, and I referred to it earlier. So in Friday's meeting, this election was in at $47,500. Well, that was a huge number that I wasn't expecting to see. And it's now budgeted in the right one, and the finance committee members brought it up and suggested it seemed high and wrong. Then the other councillors in the room commented, the first number we heard Michael commenting was 30. Now I see we have it at 15,000, which is the same as last year. When I look at the AP report we've just done, by the end of March, we paid, not just invoiced or incurred, we paid 7,300 by the end of March. So I find it hard to believe that we've only got another 50% to go. So we should probably have a better number on that.
And then we budgeted a little bit high. We've talked to the chief election officer, and we went through the budget with him. First, if you remember, we started this process, we thought it'd be about a $30,000 to $35,000 process. After working with him, it's about a $15,000 process. And we don't expect a big deviation.
But he spent half of it, he'd been paid half of it before the end of March.
A lot of setup costs. The CEO was on a retainer.
That's not including our staff costs or time.
No, it doesn't include our staff costs.
And I guess that's going to be tougher to allocate, or you probably won't even be breaking that out.
I could, but it's
not worth the time.
it's not big.
But it's not big, but in last year's budget, it would have included the staff cost and time, because most of the staff did the work. So there's not an apple to apple comparison.
That's correct.
Okay.
So Ron, you're saying that we're not going to come in at 30, that we're about halfway there and we're going to likely hit 15, and that's based on conversations with the CEO?
That's correct.
Okay.
The emergency management fund, I mentioned that a little earlier. That professional fees is down here as 40. I think the ask was only 30. Last year we only spent 25, so I think that's slightly high. We should just confirm that. But I'm more concerned that he's actually got a contract, unless I'm spoke to him. He hasn't. Yeah, those were kind of my high level observations for now. Oh, there's one more.
They're good concerns, I mean, but they've all been addressed. Well,
Yeah.
we have revised some numbers. We're not going to do another revision until we get all the comments from the village people. Because once we get the comments, then we'll all sit down and chat again and say, what do you think?
Okay,
Okay, and then sorry, the last page is the capital projects which you need to look at, because for example, the connector projects are not on there yet, the grant is. And we spend some money on it. That's the other thing. If we decide not to do that project, we already have sunk costs that we're not getting back.
right.
And we're not getting grant for the sunk costs. Okay.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, we'll move on. We'll open it up to public questions. Any questions in the gallery? No, okay. We'll move to the Zoom participants. Any questions?
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, we have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll put it forward.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Deanna and Randy for your input. Appreciate that. And the gallery as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.